Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of DevDrawer. Today we're going to be doing something fun, I guess. We've been working pretty hard with some PHP server-side stuff lately, WordPress, plugin development, all that kind of good stuff. So today I wanted to actually do something fun for May the 4th, but I'm a little bit behind on that. So this video was actually supposed to go out last week, but I had some things I needed to take care of, so I didn't get to do it, so I'm going to do it now. So let's just say this is kind of like a belated Star Wars May the 4th example of some work. So today we're going to be creating that scrolling intro that you see on all the Star Wars movies, where it shows, like, you know, the galaxy far, far away, and then it shows the Star Wars logo, and then everything kind of scrolls up. So that's what we're going to be creating today. And I guess let's go ahead and get started with it. Before I get too far into it, let me actually show you what we're going to be creating. So this is kind of like my own little intro, kind of playing off on the fact that I missed my deadline. So just without the music, obviously I don't want to have any copyright strikes, and I actually replaced the logo too, so that it says the DevDrawer instead of Star Wars. But the overall, you can kind of see that it's kind of the same thing that you would expect from the Star Wars movies. So this is what we're going to be building out today. Hopefully you like it. So, alright, let's go. First things first, I'm going to go ahead and create the folder structure that is needed for this project. So I've already created a Star Wars scroller folder. So inside of this, I'm going to do index.html. And the reason why I'm starting with this index.html is because I want to use this go live for the browser. So it'll be live updating as we're doing it so that you guys can see it. And in the previous videos, I showed you how to install that add-on for VS Code, so you can look at it. But basically, it is this live server add-on for VS Code. Again, you don't have to do that, but it does make it where it's a lot easier, especially in presenting a video like this. So let's create an HTML5 template using Emmet, and let's go ahead and put in a title here for let's see, Star Wars scroller. Alright, so now we got our Star Wars scroller over there, and in order to build out the website, let's go ahead and kind of section everything off and create the HTML, and then we'll get into building out the CSS and the JavaScript that's involved with it. So let's do the first thing. Let's create a section, and we're going to call this intro. Not section call, section class, intro. And then this is where our text, a long time ago in a galaxy far, and let's go ahead and put this on the second line like they do, and 4 periods. Like that. Alright, so a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and we have that text here. Okay, so what I want to go ahead and change this to right now is I want to have the black background, and let's go ahead and do some JavaScript to create the stars. The stars are going to be, I guess they're going to be automatically, dynamically generated based on random XY positioning. They're basically just like a pixel or two, and it's just going to be a white dot on top of a black background. So I'm going to go ahead and load in link href equals style.css and rel equals style sheet. Okay, so that's just going to give us a blank style sheet to work with, and I'm also going to load in a script. So script source equals initialize.js, and let's go ahead and create those files over here too. So we got style.css, and we have initialize.js. Okay, so first on the style.css, I'm going to go ahead and just do the body and make it a black background. So we're going to do background dash color, and we're just going to make it black. And let's also go ahead and put in an overflow hidden, and we're going to make this important because as that text is scrolling, we don't want any kind of wonky scroll bars to appear. And let's also add a margin of 0 to it just to make sure that there's no spacing or padding or anything around it. Okay, so that should give us a black background. And now we're going to create, inside of our initialize.js, we're actually going to write out some JavaScript. Now this JavaScript, just off the top of my head, so it's probably going to be rudimentary, but it kind of should be able to, you should be able to modify it to do what you want it to do. So first thing, let's create a constant variable, and we're going to call it stars. And this is going to equal to, let's just have it as 1 for now. And then let's create a function to set and get this random position. So we're going to do random position, and nope, that's not what I wanted to do. And we're just going to return a array of a random X position and a random Y position. Okay, so in order to create that random position that's going to eventually get called, we need to do a little bit of math. So let's do the first thing is going to be, we're going to declare a variable, and a variable is going to be the Y positioning of the entire window. So Y, and then we're going to do window dot inner width, and then we're going to do var x equals window dot inner height. And then finally we're going to declare these random. So this random x equals, here comes the math, so math dot floor, and then we're going to do math dot random. So it basically creates a random number, and then it's going to multiply it by that x position. And we're going to do the same thing with our y. We're just going to multiply it by the y position. So math floor, make sure that that's capitalized, math floor, and then this is going to be y. Okay, so now we have a random position function, and obviously it hasn't changed or added anything on there yet because we haven't actually created the positioning of anything yet. So let's go to our styles real quick, and I'm going to create a star style. I believe that's what we called it. Stars. Okay, well that's fine. So let's do stars. Stars, and then this is going to be the div that gets created by that JavaScript. So we're going to do position absolute, and then we're only going to have it be 1 pixel width by 1 pixel height. And let's do background color, and we're just going to make this white, and then let's give it a z-index of 1. Now let's give it a z-index of 2 because eventually we're going to add something to this body that needs to go at 1. So all of the content above it is going to go at 2. Okay, so right now we don't have anything that's still being generated, so let's go inside of our initialize.js and create the let's move it up here. So let's create the functionality that allows us to generate these random star positions. So we're going to do for let I equals 0, and then we're going to do I is greater than stars, and then we're going to I plus plus. So basically this is going to check to see whether this variable is a 0, if it's greater than, or we're going to assign the variable as a 0, and then once it becomes greater than 0, the stars number that we have at the top, it's going to stop adding new stars. Otherwise it's going to add new stars. Okay, so we got this for loop, and then inside of this for loop we're going to do let star, which is going to be what we declare, and it's going to be that style that we created over here. So we have the class stars, so it's going to be star is going to equal document dot create element, because we want it to create an element whenever it loops through this, and we're just going to have it create a div, and then we're going to do star dot class name equals stars, and let me make sure I got that right. Stars. Okay. And then we're going to do var xy, which is the position of the star, and it's going to use that get random, not get random, it's going to be random position, and we're not going to pass anything to that. So now we have our star, which is the div. We're going to add a style to it, top equals xy, and then we're going to get the first value of our array, and then we're going to add some pixels to it so it generates those pixels automatically. And then we're going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to copy this, paste it, and we're going to be, instead of top, it is going to be left, and that's going to be the 1 position in the array. And then we're going to add that to the body. So document.body.append star. Okay, so now we come over here, we can see we have one little itty bitty star. I don't know how easy that is to see on the screen, so let me increase this to say 100 stars. You can see now there's randomly generated stars, so if we refresh the page, the stars are always randomly generated. Let's try 400 and see what that looks like. Oh, now that looks like a beautiful starry night, so I think that's the number we're going to stick with. One thing to keep in mind is that if you're using this, it's generating divs. So I'm going to inspect that and show you what I'm talking about. If we look at the code that's currently being created, it's going to have 400 of these. So depending on processing speed, also a bunch of various things. If you have a slow website, then this could definitely attribute. I mean, it's only a pixel being powered by JavaScript and CSS, so it's not really going to do too much. It's not like a canvas element where it's going to actually kind of like break things if it gets too much processing in there. But if if it's something that's a worry for you, that you can always just make this a background image. You just have to make sure that it's the correct appropriate size, and it's add it in your style sheet, add the appropriate size. But again, it shouldn't really affect too much of this because it's 1 pixel is being loaded 400 times. 400 pixels isn't going to add too much processing power to your website. Okay, so let's continue on a little bit more. Let's add some more content to it. So we have our intro, and we're going to create. We need to create where the logo is. So the next step in this is going to be the logo. So let's do section class equals logo, and you can either do an SVG. Just for purposes of my own, I have created an image that I'm going to use, so I'm going to copy that from my development folder into this site folder. The reason why I'm doing this is because obviously I don't want to have Star Wars music or Star Wars logo on my content, so I just want to show you how to do it. You can do whatever you want to with it. So we're going to do image source, and then we're just going to link out to logo PNG, and let's throw an alt tag on there. So dev drawer Star Wars screen mockup. Okay, and let's close that out. So let's see how that looks. Alright, so we're not really worried about it right now. The styling will come in whenever we need it to, but that's kind of the look of the logo I was wanting, so that's great. Alright, so next let's create the scroller. So let's do div id equals scroller, and then inside of this div we're going to create a title element. No, let's do div id equals content, because we want to have the scroller to be positioned a certain way and then the content to actually scroll within inside of that scroller. Alright, so now we do our p id equals title, and then this is going to be the episode name. So episode, golly, my spelling is way off today. Episode, and I think this is 61. I think. Let's see. Let's do another one. We're going to do a subtitle. So id equals subtitle, and then let's see. Dev drawer is late for May the 4th. So that's understandable. Alright, and then down here we're just going to do, this is scrolling content. We'll put in some dummy lorem ipsum there in a minute, but for right now that should kind of give us a boilerplate of all of the content that we need on here so far. Okay, so everything is there, looks good so far. So let's go in and do some of the styling. So let's click over to CSS and let's do the intro first. So let's do intro, and this intro is going to be position absolute, and then we're going to center it. So we're going to do top 50%, left 50%, and then we're going to do a transform, translate, and it's going to be negative 50% and negative 50%. So that should essentially center it for us. Then again, we're going to give this a z-index of 2. Alright, so now it's hidden behind the text, which that's fine, it's kind of expected. We haven't added any styling or anything to it yet. Let me go ahead and just to get it out of the way, I'm going to do .logo, and we're just going to do opacity 0. So that should get it out of the way for us. There we go. Alright, so now we can kind of read some of the other stuff that we're trying to do. Okay, so back into this intro. We are going to add an animation to it in a second, but let me go ahead and do the color, which is, let me look through my, it's the color is like a blue color. So I have this RGB color that I found that kind of matches it. So we're going to do RGB 75, 213, 238, because that kind of matches what I've always seen on the scroller itself. And then we're going to do font family. We're going to include Open Sans from Google. So you can go to Google Fonts and grab this import code that I'm fixing to add up here. But I kind of know it because I use it so much. So import URL https fonts.googleapis.com/css2 family equals, and then this is going to be Open Sans, and display equals swap. Okay, so now we can use the body font. So font family, and this is going to be Open Sans, and let's also pass sans serif, which again you can grab from Google's website. Alright, so there we go. So you can kind of see it's getting there, it's centered, it's blue. We need to make it bigger, obviously, so let's go in here and make it bigger. Let's make it font weight 500, which I think is kind of default. And then let's do font size 3.25 rem, and let's make it width 80%, just so we can have it centered where we want it to be at. Alright, so that looks great. Let's go ahead and add that animation to it. So let's do animation, and we're going to name it intro, and we want the intro animation to, and this is kind of based on the length of the sound effects that go into it, so you can play with these as much as you want to, but for me it's kind of like 6 seconds going into it, and we're going to use an ease out method, and then I want to pass it to the next one in about 0.5 seconds. And that should give us the animation that we want, where it kind of fades in on load. So let's go ahead and create that animation. So we're going to do keyframes intro, and then at the 0% position we are going to make the opacity of 0, which reminds me up here we need to also have opacity 0 so it doesn't flicker whenever it first loads. We got opacity of 0 there, and I'm just going to go ahead and copy this and change the percentages. So let's do one at 20%, so it's kind of in the beginning, and then let's do another one at 90%, so it's kind of at the end, and then finally our 100%. So for the opacity for these two in the middle, we want it to basically be out, and then fade in, and then fade back out. So let me refresh this. Oh, I need to spell keyframes correct. Alright, there we go. There we go. So now it kind of fades in, and then it should fade out after a few seconds. There we go. So that's what we want it to do. So now the next part that we need to go into is have that logo kind of bang right there in your face. So let's go back down to our logo that we've already kind of removed out of the equation, and let's add some styling to it. So again, we're going to do position absolute, and we want it to be centered, so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to copy this top, left, and transform, and we're just going to add that to the same positioning. And let's go ahead and take this and make it 1 for now. It'll be 0 in the end, but it'll be 1 for now. Okay, so it's kind of displaying where we want it to, so let's just make sure that it's in the correct positioning. So we're going to do our Z index of 2 like we did for the other one, because all of our stuff is going to be there. And then we want to have a width of 100%, because the initial logo for Star Wars is big. It's not just like small centered on the screen. It's actually big, and then it kind of zooms out a little bit. So I'm not particularly liking how it's starting over here, so I'll have to work on that. But for now, let's go ahead. Oh, I know what it is. So that's the div. We need to add a width to the image, and we're going to do width inherit, and let's see how that looks. That's better. So now it's kind of the width that we want it to be, where it's 100% in the screen. Okay, so now let's go ahead and make it go to opacity 0, and then we're going to do another animation, and we're going to name it logo. We're going to make it last for about 10 seconds. Again, this is me estimating it based on the sounds of the music score that's coming in. And then we're going to have it kind of transition for 9 seconds going out. Alright, so now we have this logo image, so let's create the animation for logo. So at keyframes logo, and this one's going to be a little bit easier. So we're going to be using a transform in order to scale it up and down to eventually make it kind of fade out and disappear in the background. And in order to do that, we need to also pass this translate as well, or else it'll end up not using our translate from here, because it'll think the transform is all by itself. So let's create our positioning first. So we got 0%, and then let's do, I want to make it kind of slow than fast. So we're going to do 0, and then let's bring it to the end at about 70%, and then drop another one at the end for 100%. And we're going to make the opacity here is going to be 1. And then when it gets to about 70%, it's still going to be 1, but we want it to start fading out. So the next part here is going to be opacity 0. So that should give us the fade out, fade in that we want, but it's not necessarily going to, it's not going to zoom in and zoom out right now. So it should just fade in and fade out. Okay, so it does that quick jump fade like it does, and then after a few seconds it should start fading out like it is. Alright, so now we just need to make it where it zooms out as it's fading. And the way that we do that is we're going to copy this transform translate, paste it here, and we're going to add something to the end of it for a scale. So we're going to do scale equals 2, and then down here for the same thing we're going to do scale, and let's just say 0.1, which should make it itty bitty. So now let's watch it again as it goes through the whole thing, and it's like ba-da, and that's whenever this appears, and then it's starting to zoom out as it's fading into the background. which there's the fade. Now at about that point, we need that text to start scrolling up. So let's start creating that scroller text. First thing I want to do is the paragraph tags. I need to make them the color of the logo, which I believe is this. I think that's what I copied whenever I was creating that logo for it. Yeah, that's the gold. Okay. Alright, so now we have our intro, our logo, then we have our scroller and our content. Okay, so we got the P out of the way, so let's do scroller, and this is going to set the font. It's going to lean the scroller, and then it's going to position it. There's a lot that's going to be going on here, so I'll try to explain it as much as I can as we go through it. Okay, so first thing we want to do is we're just going to set a font family and make it a sans serif, so it doesn't have the like curly cues on it. It's just regular text. And let's see how that's looking so far. Alright, so that's what we're wanting. So it doesn't have the little curly things like Times New Roman or even the open sans, and it's yellow. So that's what we're wanting it to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and do font weight and make it bold, and let's do a font size of, let's do 350%, which is a weird font size, but you'll see in a minute. I'm fixing to start switching over to like EMs, so 350%, and then we're going to set this the height of this box, and let's set it to 50 EMs, and then the width of it we are going to set to 20 EMs. And we also want it to come from the bottom, so we're going to do bottom 0, which reminds me we need to do a position of absolute, and then we do bottom 0, and then we can do left 50%, and let's give it a Z index of 0. Let's see how that looks. Well, it's way hidden off the screen right now, so you're not going to be able to see it. So let's give it some more information to go with. So let's do, for the text, we don't want it to be left aligned, so we're going to do text align, and then we're going to justify the text. Everything that's inside this div will be justified. Let's see. We're going to set the overflow to hidden so that it's not wrapping off to the left and the right. And I think, let's see, what else do we need to do here? Well, we need to skew it. So let's go ahead and add some transforms into it. So we're going to do transform perspective. We're going to do a perspective transform, and we're going to make it 300 pixels, and then we're going to rotate it backwards a little bit. So it's kind of look like it's going towards the horizon, and then the text will just kind of, it'll get smaller as it goes back. So we're going to give it a 300 pixel perspective, and then we're going to rotate the X position by 25 degrees, which will give it that, like it's falling, going backwards kind of look. And then we want to have the transform origin, and we're going to make that 50% and then 100%, just so it actually transforms kind of at the bottom middle for us. Alright, so the text is kind of looking the way that we want it to. It's very small right now, so we need to increase that font size, or actually give it a real font size. 350%. I wonder if I can change this. Just making it REM. Let's try like a 3 REM. No. Alright, so let's just keep it this for now. I can't remember why I did it at 350. There's a reason why I did that. I think it has something to do with the height and the width. That's over here, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Alright, so now we're going to add a after. So scroller after, And this scroller after is going to be position absolute. The content is going to be nothing. And we're going to do bottom 60%. We want to push it down a little bit. Then we're going to do left 0, right 0, top 0, just to give it some of that position that we're looking for. Okay, so we're getting there. It's not quite where we want it to be at yet, but it will be in just a moment. Okay, I think. So why is it over here? I need to see. It feels like it's not. Okay, it's listening there. Okay, I think I know what I did. Left 50%, bottom 0. Why is it? Okay, I'm going to change this for a second and see why that seems to be the issue there. Okay, alright, well, let's just roll with that and we'll get to the animation of it. The animation may help me figure out where my thoughts were with that. Alright, so we have our scroller after and our scroller. So let's do the content. So the content is going to be inside of the scroller, and we're going to do position absolute and then top 100%. So basically it's going to start at the bottom of the screen, so you're not even going to be able to see it. It's way off there at the bottom of the screen. And let's refresh that. Okay. So let's go ahead and add an animation to this. So we're going to do animation, and then let's name it scroller. And it's going to be 100 seconds, so it takes 100 seconds to, or 100 milliseconds for it to scroll all the way up, and then it's going to end at 16 seconds, or 100 seconds to scroll up, and then the delay is 16 seconds. I'm losing my mind. Okay, so let me go ahead and create the at keyframes, and this is going to be scroller, and we're going to do 0%, and it's going to be top 100%, and then at the end of it, so 100%, we're going to make the top be, I don't know, negative 200%. Okay, so we can wait through that one and see if it actually lines up where we want it to go. Alright, so as soon as this starts to kind of fade towards the back, we should see some, at least the title and the subtitle start to pop up. Okay. Alright, so it's a little bit off on the content. I think I need to center everything, but it's kind of doing what we want it to do. It's floating back there, so that's good. Alright, so let me see, scroller, text align, just, okay, I know what I need to do. So we got our scroller here. The reason why it looks kind of wonky is because we want to have the title and the subtitle to be text align center, because they're all going to be kind of on their own. And just because I want them to kind of be bunched up together, we're going to do line height, and we're going to make it 1.5 rem. And then for the subtitle, the words are capitalized, so we're going to do text transform, and then it's going to be uppercase, and they're also a different font size, so we're going to do font size, and I think it's 3.5 rem. And now if we watch this from the beginning, we should be able to kind of see some of the transitions and hopefully to be centered. If not, I might have to add that 250 that I had up here. So as soon as this kind of fades out, we should have something that pops up right there. The screen is a little bit small here, so I mean it's wide. Let me decrease some of what's in here. Dev drawer, how about definitely not math. May the 4th. How about DevDrawer missed May the 4th? And let's see how that looks. Now, if you've seen Star Wars movies, which I assume most of you have, this is like whenever that big crescendo of music is playing and it's starting to kind of get pumped up there. So yeah, this is the direction that they were going with all of this. So I'm kind of happy at the results that we got so far. So there is a few things that we still need to do. I need to see. I feel like I missed something. Let's put this left back in 50%, and then let's add a margin left. And oh, that's right. So this 20 EM that we did for the width, we need to have our margin left be negative half of that. So margin left 10 EM, and that should give us the content centered the way that we want it to be centered. So it has that forced perspective going straight down the middle. Alright, so far so good. Again, we've already seen this part. So maybe I need to change the timing while we're working on it. Still isn't quite centered on the screen. We can play around a little bit more with that. So first thing I want to do is I want to add some content on here so it actually looks like it does inside of the actual movies. So let's change this from this is scrolling content. I'm just going to put something here. So the dev drawer was inspired to create something for nerds and geeks alike, but unfortunately he missed his own deadline to create something for the day in honor of Star Wars. Well, this episode is to help fix that. So let's get started. And I think that's enough text from me. I'm actually going to go out to a Lorem Ipsum website. So let's do Lorem Ipsum to grab the rest of this. Alright, so let's try this. Well, there's usually a website that I go to. That's definitely not that one. I just need something to give me just the HTML. How about this? Lorem Ipsum HTML. Sure. Oh, come on. Okay. Paragraph tags. That's what I need right there. Alright, so let's try this out, and we're just going to paste it into our code and move it over. Save. Alright, let's wait through it and see how that looks. Oh, it actually looks centered now. I think it might have been because crate. I gotta fix that. Alright. Well, I think it looks pretty good. It's doing the text. So now, if you're familiar with the movies, you know when it gets to about right here, it starts to fade out. We haven't done anything with this fade yet, so it's just going to keep going and going and going and going, getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So we don't want that to happen. Alright, so let me just clean this up a little bit. Alright, now let me close out of this, and we can go back to our code. Let's go to the styles, and we're going to add something to this body tag up here. So we're going to do body after. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to add in an after tag that's going to add in some CSS that's down here, that's like a gradient that's only in the back, so whenever the text goes underneath it, it's going to fade out. So the text there will be lower than the gradient itself. Okay, so hopefully I explained that. If not, you'll kind of see how I'm going with it. Let's do content, and we're going to have no content there. I don't know why I always do that. I like single quotes better. And then we're going to do position, and this is going to be a fixed position because we want it to always be at the top no matter their scroll. So top 0, left 0. We're going to make it width 100%. And then the height, we will play around with this, but let's see how 75 vertical height works out. So there is some online generators that you can use for CSS. You can find them to do CSS gradients. I actually have already generated this code, so I'm just going to copy down what I've already generated, but you can find, Google something to give you the proper gradient that you need, or you can just copy the one that I have because it does work. It's basically a black that goes all the way down about 75% of this fake image or this section, and then it starts to fade out until it's fully transparent at the very end of it. So let's go ahead and just do the CSS for it. So we got background, and we're going to do a linear gradient, and then inside of this linear gradient we're going to make it go to the bottom, and then from the bottom we are going to have it start doing its fade. So we're going to do RGBA, and it's going to be 0001 for the first part, and it's going to go down about 61%. And then after that we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to make it where it fades out just a little bit, so 0.54%, so halfway through, and let's say 79% there. And then finally at the 100% mark we're going to want it to be fully transparent. So that should give us the background transparency that we're looking for. And then let's do z-index, and we're going to make this a 1 z-index. So let's go down, and we got to find the scroller, and we have a z-index of 0. So that means that our text should fall underneath it, or it should go underneath it where everything else shouldn't. So let's go ahead and inspect this, and we're going to do after body. So right there. So it is fading out, as you can see there. It's not fading out here because it's not getting pushed down far enough. And now that I think about it, I think that text may be down a little too far. It looks very tight in the middle. Let's see, content, top 100%. I want to make it, see what happens if we rotate it. Let's do a perspective shift of 280. No, let's do 250. See what that looks like. But this is pretty much nearing the end of it, just tweaking it up right now. You can throw in some music and have it where it's playing that music while you're the website's loading and it's getting to this part. But yeah, I mean, it's basically something pretty cool that you can do for May the 4th. Obviously it's May the 9th just because I completely missed the day that I was supposed to be doing this. But yeah, so I think it's leaning still a little too far down. So let's play again. Let's maybe do a 350. Well, anyway, I think I'm just going to set it at 300 because you can see how it works. It's basically doing what it needs to be doing. It's just, you can play around with the perspective and the rotation of it and actually make it exactly the way that you want it to be. But I think at this, if this 350 doesn't work the way I want it to, I'm going to change it back to 300. And that looks a little bit better. It's not so compressed right there in the middle, and it kind of looks like it's fading a little bit, so that's good. You might be able to push it down a little bit more. So right now it's only doing go back up here to after, it's only doing 75 vertical height. I mean, we can change this to do, let's say, like 80 vertical height, and it should cut it down to about right here. So let's try it one more time, and then after that, I think that 43 minutes to teach you how to do a CSS intro based on Star Wars, I think, is a little bit too much time to be spending on this project. But it was a fun project. I mean, it was something that's not my normal project where it's completely code based, using PHP or whatever server programming language that I need to. This is kind of like this is a fun project. Anybody can do this without having the need to have a server or anything like that, and it's just something that, you know, a lot of people see as an interesting thing to have to do. And yeah, I think it looks great the way it's working right now. So throw in some Star Wars music there, and I think that you'll have something that you can present to other people just to show them, you know, something fun, especially if you're big fans of Star Wars. Maybe you can have like a, you know, a blog article news feed that kind of goes into this whenever someone gets onto your Star Wars based themed blog. So anyway, that's it for this tutorial. If you like the tutorial or you want to, you know, add a comment about it, please do. I'll have the source code to this entire project. You can download and change whatever you want to in it. That'll be in the description of the video. It'll be on my GitHub profile if you've ever seen that. But if you liked it, you know, definitely hit the thumbs up for me. If you like these type of videos and you're not subscribed, subscribe for me. Hit the bell notification so that you'll see the video next time I come out with one. But I think that's going to do it for this video. I appreciate you watching, and I will talk to you later.